Who let me have Facebook Marketplace? This whole collection was listed for $400. I offered the guy $140 and he just said sure. Was I supposed to not buy it? That probably would have been a good idea. I need to come up with a test setup for this because this is so many drives. I don't know if any of this stuff even works. I want to find out the total capacity and what this ends up being capacity for dollar. Maybe we can make a server or something with this? I don't know. I gotta get Brandon so we can get some of this stuff plugged in. Testing these drives should be pretty simple. I just plugged in a bunch of SATA cables here so we can get a bunch of stuff connected at the same time. Couple of outliers I found. This drive is 15 years old, and this is a 2.5-inch NAS rated drive. I have never seen a red label drive be the small like laptop kind. What is this thing? If you ever find yourself needing to test 40 hard drives, go into your computer's BIOS settings and enable a setting called SATA Hot Plug, or on this computer it's actually called External SATA. Either way, it's going to make it so you don't have to restart the computer every time you want to swap drives. It makes it go way faster. I didn't know where to start, so I just picked those two older looking 3.5-inch drives. Already found one with a health warning on it. Says 65,000 reallocated sectors. Oh no. What happened to you? How long has this been on for? 4 years. Okay, 4 years. That's not that bad for a drive that's 15 years old. This wasn't used continuously. That is a lot of reallocated sectors though. What's the other one look like? Oh, this one's totally fine. Well, these ones were interesting. Now I just have to test every single other drive. I have so much data. The total capacity of all the drives comes out to 24.5 terabytes. That is quite a bit. However, when you factor in that you can get a 16 terabyte drive nowadays, you know, 2 of those is more capacity. It is a lot cheaper though. $460 for one of these. That's $29 a terabyte. Only paying $140 for all of this. That works out to only $6 per terabyte. A lot cheaper. Although you're gonna need 41 SATA ports to plug these all into a server. Good luck with that. Let's look at some graphs, they're cool. Year of manufacture, I can't really explain this. Why were so many of them made in 1 year? 12 of the drives were made in 2013, followed by 7 in 2014, and then less in the other years. And there was not a single drive made in 2016. I'd like to know if someone can make a correlation for that. Looking at this bigger graph here for power on hours, the longest running drive with 64,000 hours is this 500 gigabyte Seagate Barracuda made in 2013. If you look through this graph and find the shortest one here, 77 hours, you can barely get it to show up. It's another Seagate drive, also 500 gigabytes, also made in 2013. I know those were the most common numbers, but what a coincidence. Moving on, I pulled out these 3 because if you look at the graph, these 3 were above everything else for both read and writes. These are all 1 terabyte drives. 2 of them are Toshiba's and 1 of them is a Seagate. So these are the highest performance ones. The worst drive I tested, let's look through here. Probably gonna be this one, AHA serial number. There it is. This is the worst drive apparently. This thing got like terrible performance benchmarks. I don't know why. We should totally put up the best drive and the worst drive, boot them on the same computer, and see how different of an experience it is. Let's try that. The slow Hitachi drive hit the desktop after like, I'm gonna call that 5.5 minutes. Terrible, terrible performance. The fastest drive, the Toshiba, that one hit the desktop like twice as fast. It only took 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Although both of these results are just completely terrible if you compare it to a cheap SSD like this Kingston drive. This hit the desktop in only, what is that, 32 seconds? Hard drives suck. With this setup, I was trying to see if I could use the quantity I have to my advantage. I put 3 of the fastest drives in RAID 0. Still cannot beat a $20 SSD. Sequential speeds are almost there, but the random speeds that really define how the operating system's gonna feel, they're just not up to it. That being said, it runs way better with 3 than 1. It's just the SSD is a lot better. So if I'm not gonna be booting computers off of these things, what are they all for? Well, this pile, probably not that much. These are the low capacity ones. I don't really know what I do with these. This pile, all the 500 gig drives, these are gonna be what I go to anytime I need to boot a computer that doesn't need an SSD, which isn't that often, but like random Windows XP or Windows 7 systems, they'll run fine on these. This pile is going to be the test subjects. Anytime I want to experiment with servers or server software, I'm going to be using these drives. These are all the 750 gigs. These ones are probably going to end up in an actually useful server. These are all 1 terabyte drives, and these are also the fast ones, so actually useful stuff. And yeah, I'm very impressed that every single drive was functional. Only 2 of them had health warnings at all, so like, I think this was actually a pretty good deal. And on that note, come back next Thursday. I'll be doing something else stupid, whatever I come up with. Bye.